I've got a really nice route. Started comparing rides between the Netherlands and the United States. And I had way more spikiness in my heart rate, and there was elevated levels of heart rate where it shouldn't be. Like, it was a very comfortable ride. And I was like, there's something behind this data. And that was what sparked, hey, I could probably use this to do a calculation and then have people share their data and target places that need to be improved. So that's the origin story. And I love that.
Have you ever wondered how successful architecture, engineering, and construction companies scale their business?
Or have you ever wanted guidance on how to get more growth, wealth, and freedom from your AEC company?
Well, then you are in luck. Hi, I'm Will Forat.
And I'm Justin Nagel, and we're your podcast hosts.
We interview successful AEC business leaders to learn how they use people, process, and technology to scale their businesses.
So sit back and get ready to learn from the industry's best. This is Building Scale.
Hey listeners, it's Will here. Our mission is to help the AEC industry protect itself by making technology easy. If you've ever listened to our show, then you know that the three pillars of scaling a business are people, process, and technology. So if you suspect technology is your weak link, then book a call with us to see where we can help maximize your company's IT and cybersecurity strategy. Just go to buildingscale.net/help.
Today's guest is Mike Sewell. Mike is the Director of Innovation and a board member at Gresham Smith, one of the nation's leading architecture, engineering, and consultancy firms. With over 2 decades of experience, Mike is known for pioneering safety-focused design and leveraging emerging technologies to improve infrastructure for vulnerable road users. He's the creator of the patented Empath platform, the first of its kind to quantify emotional response in different environments. Empath earned major honors, including Fast Company's World-Changing Ideas Award and Architect Magazine's R&D Award. Mike also serves on the board of the League of American Bicyclists and has testified before Congress on multi-module safety and infrastructure funding. His work at Gresham Smith continues to blend traditional engineering with cutting-edge innovation, all aimed at creating healthier, safer, and more connected communities. And with all that said, Mike, welcome to the show.
Will and Justin, I really appreciate you affording me the opportunity to come and speak about something I love, which is this weird kind of mashup of design and technology. So I'm really thrilled to be here.
No, it's super fun. I get giddy thinking about what we're going to talk about because the Empath thing is wild, and what you're doing as an innovation leader is just fun. It's just totally down our pipe.
And it totally tickles the funny bone when you think about, like, you know, there's a lot of talk about AI, but this is insanity. This is a place that I did not fathom that it would go, and yet here we are. So don't want to keep you waiting. So Justin, why don't you get us started?
Yeah. So Mike, I said all these wonderful, nice things, but tell us your origin story. How did you get in engineering? How did you eventually get into the innovation piece of that? And tell us a little bit more about Gresham Smith.
Yeah, sure. Well, in the intro, I might need to prop up my head for a second. That was very kind of you. Thank you for going through all the accolades. But honestly, it's been a labor of love. Started with a background in engineering. I chose engineering because, you know, when I was growing up, we were very reliant on a lot of public outreach, public things that were not in place that really made our jobs a lot more difficult. And I thought if I chose engineering, I could potentially help the communities that I love and prop up other folks. So that's the reason I gravitated towards engineering, which has been a really fulfilling career in and of itself. But then the tech side, I'm a dork. You'll figure that out over the course of this podcast. Pretty, you know, you'll figure that out pretty quick. But I've always been just enthralled with technology. So going back as far as the mid 80s when I got my first home computer that was, you know, gifted to the family, I taught myself everything, autodidact all the way, like never have taken any computer courses, just have poured myself into finding out and staying curious about it. And so I got a lot of background with that too, but then I had the opportunity at Gresham Smith to lead the innovation program, which is kind of wrapping that technology side and that love for technology around the genuine care that I want as an engineer and now architects as well. So that's a little bit about the background. I'm happy to go into more detail, but that's the origin story.
All right, well, let's hit on that core purpose of
Yeah.
you essentially wanting to make your community better or your communities better, right? Let's dig into that a little deeper. What does that truly mean to you, and why does that drive you?
Yeah, well, it's pretty simple. You know, while some of us can choose forms of transportation, some of us choose how we interact with an environment around us. A lot of people don't. I didn't when we were growing up. We had it rough, and now you talked a little bit about my background with and love for multimodal kind of engineering and transportation. A lot of people, that's not a choice. Like that's the only viable solution that they can afford to get around, and I think that really solidified. Um, those folks don't have a voice. Those folks are very dependent on places that I influence, potentially as an engineer or designer of places. So why not really invest myself in doing what's right by the communities that depend on better and really should be demanding better places and better connections to those places. So it's as simple as that, just looking out for people that depend on places and infrastructure.
All right. I'm not going to try to hide the headline here or bury the headline, as they say. Let's dive into the empath stuff. So,
Oh yeah.
first, what is it? And second,
Yep.
where did it start? Where did this idea come from?
Sure. Yeah. So in innovation, this kind of kicked off Empath at Gresham Smith. This was the impetus behind my current role, which was I started really challenging engineers like data, right? We like a lot of numbers, we like a lot of supporting information, and there was a gap. I think, in general terms, I'll pick on engineering, but one thing in particular always bugged me about engineering is we wait a lot of times to challenge the status quo until something catastrophic happens. We wait until someone loses their life. We wait until someone has a serious injury, and then we're like, oh, we should probably take a look at this roadway, or we should take a look at this space that's caused this problem. The problem is like that's real life. That's somebody that had to be on a piece of infrastructure or in a place, and something unforeseen happened to them. That's a terrible data point to wait for. And so that was the spark behind Empath. What it is it looks for precursor information. It's it, in I will dork out for a second, but it's using low polling heart rate data on any modern wearable or Bluetooth device. It is looking for nonlinear transforms of heart rate. If you look at the two calculations primarily that calculate stress, like if you go and do a stress test, it's using EKG level data, which drains batteries. Mine uses low frequency heart rate data, so you can record all day long everywhere you go using not a lot of battery, and it marries that data up with the location information.
Okay.
So that in and of itself, it's looking for stress. It's calculating fight or flight mechanisms. So think of it if you walked out and got buzzed by a bus on the side of a road. You're not losing your life. It makes you very uncomfortable. That shows up in data now. And so comparing that to the original EKG, the two primary methodologies for calculating stress, they're just slope analysis. And so I dumbed it down and created a novel calculation for stress. I had it vetted with Vanderbilt. And then that part is fun in and of itself, but the real power is aggregation. So when you've got a lot of people experiencing a similar type of response, well, it's no longer an individual user, it's the environment causing that stress. And so you start to see it's painting a picture now where if we can go upstream from somebody having to have a serious injury or lose their life, and we start looking at these leading indicators of people not feeling comfortable in space, well, let's go fix that space before somebody does have a problem. That's the background. That's what it is. But the origin story is even cooler, I think. Again, I'm a bike guy. I was invited as part of my infrastructure role to audit a group of people biking across the Netherlands. So I was in the Netherlands biking across the country. We biked in miles. It was about 220 miles across the country. And I was just like hit. I was outside of Leiden. I'll never forget it. And we were in this big, long group of people biking. And it was just this wave of appreciation for how they put their infrastructure together hit me. And it was just magic. It was beautiful. It was intuitive. It was comfortable. There was plenty of accommodations. I knew exactly where I was. Everything just lined up. It checked all the boxes for places and for infrastructure. And I remember I pulled over, I took a picture of that spot, and I was like, I want to calculate this. And so then I I've mentioned I'm a dork. I record everything. I've got sensors on me at all times. When I'm on my bike rides, it knows where I'm at. And I started looking at the data. When I got back to the stateside, I started really digging into a normal commute. I used to bike commute every single day. Just love that mode of transportation. And just even when you feel like, hey, I've got a really nice route, I started comparing rides between the Netherlands and the United States. And I had way more spikiness in my heart rate, and there was elevated levels of heart rate where it shouldn't be. Like, it was a very comfortable ride. And I was like, there's something behind this data. And that was what sparked, hey, I could probably use this to do a calculation and then have people share their data and target places that need to be improved. So that's the origin story. And I love that. It's just that hit me there in such a powerful way that I was like, I know that I can figure this out. And I'm not a medical is not my background. But again, engineering is all about data. It's all about dissecting a problem and trying to find a new solution. I know we're going to talk about digital transformation, things like that, but that was that weird confluence of a couple different passions just all coming together at the right time and in the right place.
So what has come from this, right? So this sounds cool, right? Like as a listener, be like, okay, so you understand that certain places are more stressful. Totally down with that idea. What has now come out of this?
Yeah, so a few things. For one, thought leadership. I think the demonstration that designers at Gresham Smith, and I want to give kudos to the company. They invested in me exploring this. Thought leadership for number one. We care about the places we design, so why don't we use intuitive new ways of figuring out how to do that even better? That's number one. We deployed it in places like Denver. They have a massive population that loves multimodal travel. And they were really an early adopter. So they allowed us to do a pilot test with Dottie out there. We deployed it. We collected about 3.5 million data points across the city. I can share graphics of it later, but it really highlighted areas that they wanted to target for improvement, that there were no crash data. So it highlighted again, there's discrepancies between the historic way that we've approached projects and what the stress data can tell us. An aggregated stress model can tell us that, hey, there's a problem here. Let's aggregate all these things. Let's prioritize different projects that we think will have an impact, and we can do quick fixes to see if that's addressing the problem. And if it is, then we can invest more money. So that kind of informed how council was starting to allocate dollars. Lots of other cool things came of that project. Since then, though, we've also started trying to take it indoors. Think of other high-stress locations like airports. No one thoroughly enjoys the day that they have to go through and work out through security. But the next step for us would be, let's use it for a reactive environment. So let's say you are arriving at an airport and you say, yeah, I'm going to share with a Delta via a Gresham Smith my experience journey. We can map that now. We can highlight specific areas where there might be confusion that shows up in stress data and target those for interventions like simple wayfinding and signage, things like that. We've also deployed it. I know I'm rambling now, but there's just so many different directions. Think of high stress environments like the healthcare industry, which we design a lot of hospitals. And we're constantly changing, the types of environments we create to influence either a customer experience or to support professional staff that are in those environments. Those people are in really high stress jobs all day long. So recently you saw this come to a head during COVID. We had nurses burning out. Stress. It's stress. Mm-hmm. So can we start to detect when elevated levels of stress start to, eject them from their sweet spot, the flow state, as people call it. Let's do a mandatory respite in a Gresham Smith designed respite room and get them back to an optimal level to carry out a job. So it started to open our eyes. There's a lot of other ways that we can apply that kind of approach to positively influence the design of places.
So I hear the positives in terms of, I'm going to put my business hat on for a second. Cool. Okay. Sounds like a lot of dollars are invested, and sounds like, for someone that, when we talk about the business hat, how does it impact I understand how it impacts the design directly, right? You change the design because of changing stress levels. Mm-hmm. But what about brass tacks, right? Where someone's paying dollars for this, right? Where does it help in terms of value for, let's say, the project itself?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, for one, the platform itself doesn't cost a whole lot of money to spin up a study. So we tried to make it as approachable and easy. You can download the app right now and just look at your own personal stress information for free. But for the business side, there's a lot of money when you start to go down a path and you have to change later in the design phases. It impacts cost because there's other supporting mechanisms that are in place or getting supported, like utilities are being laid, walls are starting to come up. And the later that you change design, it has a big cost implication. So this is one of those tools, and there's a lot of other innovative things we're doing. I don't want to spend all the time on Empath. I know it's awesome, but we're going to make more decisions earlier in the design process. And if we can do that with the finger on the pulse of how other environments that might relate to this current place we're designing, how they're responding to them, or is it positive or negative, and what might work in a different context, that's gold. I mean, that's way better because we get to a better design earlier using historic data or using current data about a place. And again, there's other new things going on with Empath in the Empath world that I've gone even further upstream. So brass tacks, not everyone wants to share, data about where they're at. Not everyone can afford an Apple Watch or not even afford a $20 Bluetooth band on Amazon. So there are equity issues, absolutely, centered around a platform like this. And I'm not going to mince words. It's a surveillance capital platform. Now, I have tried to do what's right with the thing. I can't look up, Will, in my platform, you're disassociated from your data. I can ask you some questions at the beginning of a study, but outside of that, you own the data. You can revoke access to everything, and it wipes your data from the system. So from user privacy standpoint, that's one thing. But from the business side, I think it makes a lot of sense. We have to better understand the people that we're designing for so we can design the right thing.
That makes a lot of sense. Kudos to you for thinking of the privacy side. So
Yeah.
for all our privacy experts out there, and we at Spout Migration definitely approve of at least the concept around how you're looking at data. Very GDPR-ish of you.
Well, that GDPR, you mentioned that. I actually work with Gemeente Amsterdam. I hope I said the G right to please my Dutch friends. With the GDPR expert over there, because one of the early explorations we did was back in the city of Amsterdam, which is just a fun reconnection. So yeah, we went into it and they challenged us pretty heftily about how we approach data privacy and disassociating it from the person that's sourcing. So again, when you have a cool thing, people like to be a part of it, and they were really good partners early as we were exploring this.
What have you learned? So obviously we're talking about different stressful internal environments, but like when we think of, if it's bike lanes or if it's other transportation, ways, what have you seen? Obviously you felt it, right? When you were overseas, you just felt like, why is this so pleasant compared to in my home base, where it's like, I know the roads better. I know everything better because it's the route that I've, made to take and all these different things. What are those big factors that do make that difference? Oh, wow, these are huge aspects that we can just across design make changes in.
There are some commonalities like separation between uses, green space. Typically, people like. There are trade-offs that's costly, to do some of those things. Mm-hmm. But it's weird because it's very locale based. Like if you're in Arizona, mm-hmm. We can't put the same things in Arizona that we do in Pennsylvania, right? They won't grow. And so it's very locale based. There's different tolerances of stress based on your locale as well as the background, what you've been exposed to up to the point that you're collecting data. So that part has been eye-opening for me. But yeah, there's some commonalities that track, but then you can optimize it based on the locale and the expectations of those people in a specific area. That's cool. And one other thing I thought that was really interesting that I learned from it, let's say, so I had this happen to me. I got hit by a car. Every time I passed by that, I didn't have any problems for years. Got hit, and the woman could not have been kinder. It was a silly mistake. every time I passed by that spot for up a little bit over a year, there was remnant stress. So that started opening my eyes to, meaning every time I passed by there, even when I was by myself, there was no one around me, I still remembered that experience, and it still caused me stress. And the thing about that is when you're operating in an environment that you are stressed out, you are more likely to make mistakes. And so that remnant effect of stress was powerful, because what happens if I don't do a good job, or, as an architect, we design a place that does not resonate with someone in a positive way. They might start avoiding. There's avoidance behavior that comes with that initial experience. And so those are things that now we're starting to talk about and think about as designers. We again, going back to Will's initial question, what's the value? Well, if we know that people are not going to respond well to something, and we can verify that in a simulated environment using goggles and some test data from stress, let's do that before we build anything. So again, there's so many different directions we can go with it, but it's just, there's lots of little neat tidbits that have been tied to just that general exploration of people and spaces and places.
Because then you could also take it the step further. You mentioned the nurses. Like, you could say, and I'm not suggesting that we should, be mining everyone's data if that's inappropriate or not. But in regards to, hey, you're okay with this. This is for your betterment. Awesome. You are stressed to this level. Therefore, we have like a chill out room, or a room for you to go kind of reset in. And like, we want you to do that. Or construction, right? So obviously a construction site, extraordinarily stressful. You have hit a level of stress that it actually makes sense for you to just step off the job site for a second, take a minute, get your composure, get back, to even or level, and then, go back to work. And if using something like this allows, alerting and things like that to happen, then that's amazing.
Yeah. So we're still doing new explorations. Actually, we call our nurse stations the chill out rooms, trademarked by us. Nailed it. But little things like that, again, business dollars. If you can save a nurse from stressing out and leaving, well, that costs about $250,000 if I'm an operator of a hospital, to replace that person and get them geared up to a point where they're adding value as part of the staff. So there's all kinds of other things that unrelated to design, but that clients may care about, that I think some of this data starts to shed light on.
It's cool.
Thanks. So what? We got so many other cool stuff.
I would say. So what else are you innovating? If that's not enough.
So one cool thing I'll tease, and we're going to announce this via LinkedIn. You'll see it here in a little bit, but part of the process, getting design off the ground, when our clients have an idea, they talk to their teams about something that they may want to design, and then by the time that we wrap our heads around a scope and go back and forth with them, it can be a pretty, not cumbersome, but it can be a challenge sometimes, right? Because they have a preconceived notion, they have aspirations for a place that they want to create, and we have an interpretation based on a phone call or an email. So we're breaking down the barriers and creating. We've got a gaming engine platform that we've developed called Daedal. My team loves Greek mythology, and so all of our, when they're in development, we always pick Greek mythology kind of things for to call them. Daedal is after Daedalus, the architect of the labyrinth, where there's all these weird pieces that can fit together in lots of different ways. So we're gamifying the early design phases of how we scope projects, and letting our clients come in and co-create with us. So, for instance, let's say you're designing a new industrial facility, right? You're making batteries, so you have a bunch of raw material hitting a site. How much? What's the volume of that? Okay. Well, the next step is the cathode and anode plants. They split up the raw materials and they do two different things. Well, how much of that can these places? How much raw material can these all go through a process and turn it into something else? What's the cadence of that? What's the volume? What's the demands on the energy grid? All of those things, we start to tack on layers of information. And it's doing a simulation. It's showing a simulation of those things. And we have historic data about a lot of projects, right? Because we've been in business, for a long time. we start to layer on, well, the last time we did an anode and cathode plant, it took this much area. So now we're starting to rough out the space that supports a function that's defined by a process that our clients are putting in with the game engine. And so again, if you think, if you're dorky too, you've seen things like Factorio or Satisfactory. We're building things like that allow us to extract better information about the processes, that allows us to better design the places that support those processes. So that's another thing, and we're going one farther. We're calling it a phygital experience. So you can play the game, you can do it online, or whatever, but you can also be moving blocks around that are designated with these ARU codes. They're like simplified QR codes with computer vision, with projection mapping, where you're moving a loading dock around, and it shows you on a real-time adjacency matrix, hey, your loading dock is too close to the office. Here's some negatives that you get from air quality as a resultant of that move. So why don't you move back away? And so the projection mapping is making it red. Like there's a violation here that you may want to consider. So that's a cool thing. I'm really
that's
excited.
Super cool. Oh my
Wow.
God.
We hadn't talked about that, but that's another thing. My team's been really working on hard, and it's looking sharp. It's looking really good. So that's another thing that again, that's super secret. You guys get a teaser. That's the first time I think I've talked about it externally. So you guys get it first. But that's
you heard it here first.
Well, but so let's do that. Let's do that first with our clients. You want me to tease more stuff just for fun?
Sure.
Okay.
I think our listeners will gobble it up.
Well, and stop me, because I'm seriously, I can go because I love this stuff. So that's step one, like understanding the processes and understanding the space that our clients expect us. Well, what's next? We have a massing, we have a rough area, of spaces now that we have to accommodate, and we might even have some rough layout of the space. Well, we're doing a real-time rendering engine on top of it. So as the digital cameras are picking up the layouts, or we're having the digital pass off from our game engine, we have what we call Gia Imagine. Gia is our internal chatbot. She is we've engendered her. She's female because she solves all our problems. But we have different modules for Gia, and it stands for Genuine Ingenuity Assistant. Genuine Ingenuity is the Gresham Smith tagline. Harkens back to the early, what I was talking about. And sorry, a little aside. Yeah. Genuine means we care about our work. We care about the impact, so we do it in more ingenious ways. We tackle things in kind of more intelligent, more smart ways. Gia Imagine starts to pick up this interpretation of a massing and do real-time verbal input. So we can say, hey, here's a reference image. I really like the glass on this panel, but I want it to be darker blue, whatever. Gia Imagine is taking that and doing a real-time rendering at the same time. And that's the middle piece. That's working too. So the last piece of that is another iteration of Empath. It's called Empath React. Just like I'm seeing your faces, again, keeping the design process very human. We're good. I'm seeing you both smile. That's great. That makes me feel good. But I'm doing that because of a combination. I'm tracking. I know your mouths are a little bit agape. I see your teeth. I see you have a slight smile. I know you're squinting, so you're interested. Those are all things that we do every day. Empath is something else that I built with my team over the past maybe 3 or 4 months. It's been fast, but it's an emotional model. So it looks for known points on your face. It looks at the math between those known points and the angles that they change, and it picks up. Are you responding well to what I'm saying or showing you? And so that's the last layer of this is, and it does verbal sentiment analysis in real time too. So as I put down a selection of lighting or furniture in front of you, you can say, oh, I love the brown couch. I hate that light. That would go good with this. It's listening to you, and we're passing that back to Gia Imagine. So it's swapping things out based on your reaction.
And
to design elements, yeah. So
are you talking about even micro facial expressions?
Yes,
it's picking that up.
It's exactly.
Oh, jeez. Okay, that is wow. That's impressive.
Well, now the tie back is you just heard the beginning part of we want to design better places for people. We want to make it fun for our clients, and we want to get better information out. We want to show them how we augment, how we're not just replacing our professionals, because these are the people that I work with. We have 1,200 employees at Gresham Smith. They're brilliant. I don't want to replace their talent. So let's augment. So we're making the creative part faster, and then we're using again this next iteration of Empath React to pick up slight variations and changes in facial cues and verbal sentiment analysis to design the right stuff faster. And so we're lumping all this together into the Gresham Smith Design Lab. So that's close.
If the term hasn't been coined yet, you heard it here first. It's not vibe coding; it's vibe architecting.
Ooh, boom! I'm going to submit for a trademark, and I'll give you credit, Will.
I appreciate that.
Awesome. That's just a glimpse, and I didn't want to spend too much time on just the Empath because it sparked that little bit of a challenge, like how we're approaching design. We could be doing that daily. We could be evolving and making this process so much more fun and so much more enjoyable for 1,200, Gresham Smith architects and engineers and program managers. Let's challenge all of that. And Will, I know we talked before during introductions before about digital transformation. I hope now you see this is what I'm talking about. We do all of these things manually. Now we have tools that we've either developed or that we, can guide to really evolve what Gresham Smith is and define a path for us that is the future of design. And I think we're onto something.
Is automation part of your scope as far as innovation goes?
It is, yeah. It absolutely is.
So then let's talk a little bit for a second. What's the secret to automating things?
So it starts with the team. I don't know so let's take, for instance, a mechanical layout of a plant. Well, okay. Our practitioners know how that goes. They can do the manual process all day long and in their sleep almost. Me, as my background, as Justin said, his background is transportation engineering with this weird overlay of technology. I will never learn more about that process than what they already do. So it really starts with the team. They have to identify things that they would like to target for automation. And then we are very reliant on them to spend the time to manually map all of the processes associated with that manual working through it.
Whoa. Hold on.
Yeah.
You said you rely on them spending time.
That's right.
By any chance, is like your middle name Chief Cat Herder also? Because
it can feel like that, but you would be surprised when they get it. They are really willing participants. So it's less herding cats and more orchestrating slight chaos at the beginning.
Okay.
That actually speaks to the culture, right? Because it is the idea that we are going to create better things, right? Like that, and however you chalk that up. And that's not just the innovation team. That is across the board. We are going to create a better client experience. Doing that, so if we automate things, that will create that. Bingo, bango, here it is, which is a beautiful thing to see when it comes to a company of your size to have culture embedded that deep.
I love that you brought this up. Our CEO, Rodney Chester, has been really instrumental in helping to guide all the things that we're talking about today. He set this up for success. And you can see it when you walk through on people's faces. They're excited. And Rodney, again, I don't want him to think I'm bragging on him too much on the podcast, but I'm sure catch him. But he's come out and said, I want to make sure that we have the best culture of any AE firm out there. And then he turned to me and said, we have to make sure that when people choose to spend their time at Gresham Smith, that they have a full, long-lasting career, that they feel fully invested and they're getting something out of it too. Well, to me, I can't turn on anything that's going to short circuit that. And so going back to automation, the reason I start with the team is I really want them to be guiding and leading and picking the right things to automate. We could probably automate the world. There's so many things we could be automating, but it short circuits. It either creates knowledge gaps, it creates, issues for billability on things. There's all kinds of other things that we have to be cognizant of, and there's trade-offs in all of this. And the other thing too, we're stamping things. Architects and engineers certify our work, and I'm very cautious of automating something that could be interpreted as skipping the standard of care. That's a non-negotiable for us. So it's all of those things yield something very positive. But yeah, it starts with the culture. I love that you brought that up, Justin, and that's something that's really near and dear to our executive team at Gresham Smith.
So to go, a step further into the automation side.
Yeah.
How is it affecting work? And you said there's some. You described a phrase, and I want you to kind of maybe either zoom out or zoom in. I'm not sure which direction you want to take this. But when you talked about sort of the care and making sure that there's certain pieces that are not skipped, are you saying that there are certain pieces that you could automate, but you're, I guess, making a conscious decision of not automating?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, especially when you have like onboarding, you bring a new engineer or architect on, you want them to learn the actual steps. You want them to learn the process for the Gresham Smith way that we approach design. If we skipped those things, if we automated that early experience, you're in effect undercutting their ability to grow as a professional. We have to be very careful about that. So yeah, we could be automating a lot more that we're purposefully not, because we want to build great designers, architects and engineers, and everything else, consultancy services we do. We don't want to short circuit their ability to feel fulfilled, to grow as an individual and professional, and understand the decisions that they're making on a project have real implications. So yes, we're not automating everything, but we do choose to automate some things that are highly tedious that drive people insane. Absolutely, but we still walk them through what it's doing too, just so they're aware.
Are you able to share any of these, we'll call it tedious things? So just to give an idea to people that are out there, like what you think is worth automating and spending the time, because it takes time to automate, right? Like automation is great, but there's a lot of time that's spent on doing the automating before you actually reap the rewards.
Yeah, so there's several. One thing in particular that I've been really proud of is we have some really senior level folks that have built these mass processes in Excel to do calculations and checks on things like electrical layout and supportive systems. And the neat thing about this is it takes a lot of time. You get a plant layout. Again, we'll go back to industrial sites that are very complex. They have lots of different manufacturers that you have to support, things moving in that do things with raw material or part of a process. Just the electrical side of that. Let's say one of the equipment manufacturers swaps out something. Well, that changes everything. It changes the entire electric grid and all of the panels and all the support mechanisms behind that every time one of those change. And that changes a lot. So you take a junior engineer that is manually going through the same process thousands of times, and you automate it and say, hey, we just saw you swapped out this. We can read, because it's a smart object, what the load is. We're going to go all the way upstream and change all of the panel configurations. And here's the output. And here's a report of what was changed and why it was changed. Check this. Do you agree with it? Yes? Okay. Well, you just saved literally 2,000 hours.
Oh, jeez.
and I'm not exaggerating at all. That's exactly how that process went. And I will say kudos to that team. They invested about a month's worth of time on the front end to convert that Excel into a logic map for us to follow. And then my team was able to automate it in about 2 days.
Okay, well, that's worth it. I mean, so took a month. So 2,000 hours, that's basically a year's worth of man hours.
2,000 hours on one project when one thing swaps
One
out.
thing changes. Jeez.
So it can be, the scale of it is enormous. And it's tedious work. Why would we want people to be exposed to the work, but we don't want to bore them to death. We don't want to get them super excited to come to work for an architecture and engineering firm and then spend all day replacing a decimal place in BIM. So, but the other thing too, it's not just time saved. it's better for risk management. We've eliminated manual everything where we can on things like that. So me getting tired after 6 hours of doing what I just described, maybe I do miss a number. Maybe I put a 9 instead of a 6. Well, because it's automated and because we verified the automation process, we get better delivery that's less risky. Yeah.
Removing the human error, essentially.
That's it. Yeah.
No, and morale. Like, yes, X amount of time, sure. But like when you're doing something that sucks like that and you're doing it for that long, it's like, oh yeah, that's such a deterioration. And then you're unhappy. And then if you're unhappy, those around you feel that, and it goes, it chunks on and on and on.
I don't know how many modern interns would be willing to move a decimal point and spend 2,000 hours doing that across an entire build.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Will. And when you think about, okay, an intern that has two choices, they can come to a Gresham Smith and have all this cool stuff and support and be a part of, evolving. And we let them. We have junior level folks on our futures lab is what we call it, that give us ideas and we evaluate those. They can do that, or they can go and do all of these manual processes at another firm. Well, guess who's going to win? And there's a war for talent. Like that's a real thing. Finding enough folks that really want to do what I'm describing to you and have a positive impact on design, it's still tough to get them. So, yeah.
What has the essentially the investment in technology, automation, whether it new programs, new innovations, or just these non-decimal moving automations, like what has been the impact when it comes to hiring and retention?
Well, we're growing. I mean, that's the thing. We have, I think, a 90 something, I can't remember, and I don't want to quote, but it's north of 90. It's way up there for employee satisfaction. Our retention rates are very high. We have very low turnover. And typically when we get to offer stages, we have a lot of success, not just for innovation, but just in general, the overall culture, how we approach design, and the accolades we get for doing good design. So innovation's a piece. It's not the answer. It's a piece of the overall value that a firm like Gresham Smith can bring. But yeah, it works.
You're so humble, Mike. You should be like, it's all innovation. That's the reason we exist.
It's not. And I think if I was on here saying that, you should not be talking to me, because
I concur. I joke.
Yeah, no, I get it. But yeah, it is a piece of it. But there's some tried and true things that are always going to exist in design that we don't want to disrupt. But there are other things ripe for disruption.
Well, we don't want to dig into any future innovations, and however, are all innovations, is it seen eventually at the client end? Would you say that the client sees it, or customer, however you say that?
Historically, we've done a bad job of that. I'd like to sit here and say everything's been smooth sailing. It's not. We're rebuilding this plane as we fly it, as some would say. We're figuring a lot out as we go. And I would say historically we've done a bad job of that. Now, though, we're taking a different tack where since we've kind of established the space of trust with our internal markets and corporate services inside of innovation, our markets are starting to say, hey, we're going to have clients come and evaluate this. Is that cool? Yeah, that's great. And our clients may say, man, I wish you would do this and this. Well, we can do that. But having them come to the table, and I think us being willing to let our guard down a little bit, I like the word co-creation. My team will make fun of me because I probably overuse it to them, but I think it's important, and we can do that not just with design. We can do that with these platforms, and so it's been fun to tease these out. Like all the things that I've just described to you, clients have seen, and they're helping to shape, and they're going to be part of the early adopters. But we're building it kind of together. And so, yeah, we've gotten a lot better at being willing to pull the veil back a little bit, let our clients see rough ideas before they become like tangible. So, yeah, I think that's going to continue. And I think there's going to be a lot more of that model moving forward.
You spoke about Gia as sort of your internal AI chat. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming you were part of that process.
Yeah.
For companies that haven't actually dug in,
Mm-hmm.
or they're at the very beginning stage of their process
Mm-hmm.
around choosing the direction and policies and all that.
Mm-hmm.
What are some learning lessons that you guys have learned?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe if you'd had to do it all over again, or it would have just either been better, sped things
Yeah.
up, right? What are some of those learning lessons that you learned as you were implementing
Sure. Well,
AI?
yeah, it's a great question, and we were really early adopters. Again, I'm fortunate to have an executive team and a board that supports exploration early. The things that worked well was we went out of the gate with we had a governance policy that we drafted almost immediately. We had a usage policy as we start to adopt new tools, even before we adopted them. As we start to adopt new tools, here's what we expect you as a user to kind of concentrate on, which is not skipping the standard of care, not obviously using the tech for bad stuff, not skipping parts of the process. Then we started digging into specific tools we wanted to use. The first version that we unveiled of Gia resided in Teams. This was two years, almost 3 years ago. So it was early. We put an early AI agent in Teams. We coded it ourselves, and it was okay. It kind of unveiled that, hey, we've adopted something early, but it had a lot of hiccups. Like the history was funky. You couldn't reference things without manually going back and doing kind of the current version of most platforms. You go back and forth with chat. So that was a lesson learned, but that was the option. The next lesson that I would say is really dig into the buy versus build. So for Gia, which is an internal platform that we've coded, it actually has more functionality than OpenAI's offering. We built it for about $12,000 total, and our monthly reoccurring cost is between $500 and $600 on API usage. APIs, we did that specifically because the data privacy inside of an API connection is secure, it's protected. So if we turn the same thing on using a pre-built system like an OpenAI or a Microsoft Copilot, which there are pluses and minuses to that, that would have costed anywhere between $250,000 and $450,000. But we have expertise. We have the expertise internally, and so we've built something that's a really great use of dollars.
That first chatbot, the V1, what was that did the whole company get access to that, or was that just the innovation?
Yeah.
Okay, so the whole company
everybody
did. What then was the use case for it? Like what were people using it for, or what did people think they could use it for? Maybe is some better question.
Pretty much anything. I mean, it was all over the place, and we were pretty open and honest. That's another thing, advice I would give, lesson learned, is be open and honest that, hey, we're watching. Don't put terrible stuff in this, and we trust our folks. That didn't happen. But we told people, hey, we're watching this, and we did it with, what we wanted to do was, if we find a bunch of people using it for design processes or challenges, let's invest more of our time from the innovation side in IT and MIS on focusing on those types of agentic systems or custom knowledge bases. If people were using it for recipes, well, we're probably not going to invest a lot of time. And there are people that use it for recipes, obviously. But we tracked it to make sure that we're investing our time in the right types of knowledge bases or add-ons for our internal offering. And we launched Gia Chat version 2, and we've got generative image and video and everything now too, all in-house. That helped to guide, the types of things and system we wanted to build. And so we do have all of those custom knowledge bases. We've got automation scripts that go back and forth. We've got MCP connections now inside of Gia Chat that connect to other things. I can't talk too much about it. There's a lot of secret stuff around that, but it's doing a lot more for us because we were open and honest with the people that we were engaging with the first version. So that I think is another lesson learned. And the last one, lesson learned, going back to that question, I know you've asked other things, but this is an important one. Just because you turn on something or you invest in something and you expect everyone else to be just as excited as maybe us on the call, that just doesn't happen. And so we started coming out of the gate with here's use cases. And we let those people that develop the use cases own them and represent them to the firm. We have innovation hosts quarterly firm-wide calls where we showcase a bunch of cool stuff happening. Again, trying to get more people excited, but the use cases and then the training videos is you got to do that, because not everyone is going to be as curious or explore the same way that I do. So yeah, that's
Gia 2 now you just prompt Gia 2 to make those videos for you because it's just like that.
So we have started building commercials. You'll see all the things I teased earlier, like the big new. We've got commercials that we've developed. Yeah, they've got voiceovers and look like we've hired a production company. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Also, looking for recipes could be a good thing. There could be a company cookbook that's like a document that could live on your SharePoint.
I love cooking and things like that, and ultimately whatever I'd rather somebody be curious about it and tinker with it than oblivious to it. So
I also think that, and obviously how it's set up, but like getting them to just use it, right? That's the biggest hurdle, because then once, and this is what certainly we've seen, when somebody is interested about AI, it's like, well, what are you doing with it? It's like, well, I've not done anything. It's like, okay, well, just start playing with a chatbot, right? Like just start there. And then what will happen? You'll start getting a lot more ideas of like, oh, this could work for the thing I'm dealing with in business. Like, oh, but like this totally, I could use this way. And it's like, yes, exactly. And that's how innovation works, right? Like that's just explore the next thing.
It's fun. Like last week we gave a presentation, current use cases, to our owners group. And you saw light bulbs just going off across the room. They're like, oh my gosh, I should be doing this. It would save me so much time, or I could be putting together such a better proposal response. And so that just level of exposure to somebody doing something really unique and saving a bunch of time or producing something better with the help of this augmenting tool, it's just making us better.
Yeah.
Light bulbs across the room. It was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Justin, I think that we are at a good point to go to our last question, because otherwise we are going to go on like Joe Rogan for 4 more hours.
I don't know if I have it in me. Yeah.
You're East Coast time.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Mike, we love to ask this question to everybody. If you could go back 20 years, what advice would you give yourself?
Ooh, that's a really good question. What advice would I give myself 20 years ago? I would say, as with anything, I struggled, when you're intelligent, when you can process lots of things really fast, you have lots of big swings. You got lots of dips along with the peaks. I've talked mostly about peaks today, and I would say it's worth it. Like, stay curious, keep digging. All of those little moments that I spent teaching myself Pascal and something that I didn't think would amount to anything, but I was just curious about, they all add up into something really cool as long as you pursue it. And I think that marrying up something that I love to do, which was I wanted to influence places, and I married it up with that love for technology, pursue that passion. That the only reason I'm able to talk to folks like you and actually feel good and confident about the future of this company, Gresham Smith, is because of that. It's because I have been very fortunate that I've been in a position where I can marry up multiple different passions and help a lot of folks. And I would say, I didn't mention this before, but it works. We just won Fast Company's one of the most innovative companies in the world. This spring.
That's prestigious.
Well, it works. And so it's just that stay curious, marrying up the passions and pursuing it. It ends well. So yeah, I'd say that.
Wise
awesome.
words.
That's
I love hearing
amazing. This has been a ton of fun. If people wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that, Mike?
I would direct them to GreshamSmith.com or find me on LinkedIn. I'm a pretty active participant on that. So happy to engage with folks. I'd love to hear their thoughts about some of the new innovations coming from Gresham Smith.
Awesome. I'll make sure I put your LinkedIn and the website in the show notes. And is there anything else you'd like to tell the people before we say goodbye?
I would say you're getting ready to see so much change. It's going to be a really exciting time for not just innovators, but just I listen to your podcast. I love what you all do. And there's a lot of folks that really care about all of these things. And I think you all do a great job. So there's going to be so much more opportunity to capture this and to do cooler and more impactful things. Just get ready. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome. That's
Awesome.
amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening, Mike. We
Yeah,
really
of course. I appreciate
that.
the opportunity. Thank you guys so much for hosting.
Awesome. Well, listeners, I hope you had as good of a time, and maybe mine was blown with the innovations that are coming out of Gresham Smith as me and Will are. But until next time, adios.
Adios.
See you guys.
Thanks for listening to Building Scale. To help us reach even more people, please share this episode with a friend, a colleague, or on social media.
Remember, the 3 pillars of scaling a business are people, process, and technology.
And our mission is to help the AEC industry protect itself by making technology easy.
So if you think your company's technology pillar could use some improvement, book a call with us to see how we can help maximize your IT and cybersecurity strategy. Just go to buildingscale.net/help.
And until next time,
Keep building scale.
scale.